Venice, in the 18th century, was the pleasure capital of Europe, the Las Vegas of its day. It was a city of masks, mirrors, and music, known to the world as La Serenissima, the most serene republic. While its political power was fading, its culture was burning brighter than ever. This was the era of Vivaldi, Casanova, and the Grand Tour, a place where rich aristocrats from England and France flocked to gamble, party, and lose themselves in the anonymity of the carnival. Thanks to modern AI technology, we can step inside the masterpieces of Canaletto and Francesco Guardi. These artists didn't just paint the city, they documented it with photographic precision. By bringing their works to life, we can drift down the canals of 1750, hearing the lapping water and the whispers of intrigue that filled the air of this floating empire. We begin our journey on the Grand Canal, the most beautiful street in the world. You are looking south from the area near the Rialto, watching the main artery of the city pulse with life. In the 1700s, there were no motorboats to churn the water, only the silent glide of thousands of gondolas. Notice the gondolas themselves. In this era, they were not just for tourists, they were the essential carriages of the nobility. Most had a fels, a small enclosed cabin with shuttered windows. These cabins were crucial for 18th century Venetian society, offering privacy for illicit affairs and secret political discussions away from prying eyes. The palaces lining the canal, with their Byzantine and Gothic facades, were not museums, but the vibrant homes of the ruling families, their ground floors bustling with the delivery of wine, silk, and spices. We glide forward to the Rialto Bridge, the economic engine of the city. For centuries, this was the only way to cross the Grand Canal on foot. The bridge you see here is the stone structure built in the late 16th century, lined with 2 rows of shops. In the 1700s, the Rialto was a sensory overload. It was the Wall Street of Venice, where merchants met to set the prices of goods for all of Europe. But look at the quay side below. It is crowded with barrels and bales. This was where the wealth of the East arrived. Although Venice's dominance over trade was slipping, you would not know it from the noise here. Gold from the mint, fish from the lagoon, and fabrics from the Orient all crossed paths on these steps. It was chaotic, loud, and smelled of salt water and money. We now move into the Piazza San Marco, the drawing room of Europe. This vast square was the stage upon which Venetian life was performed. Dominating the view is the Basilica of San Marco, a glittering monument to the city's plunder of the East, and the towering Campanile. In the mid-18th century, the piazza was the only place in the city where wearing a mask was legal for much of the year, not just during Carnival. Imagine walking through this crowd. Half the faces are hidden behind the white Bautha mask and black tricorn hat. This anonymity allowed the nobility and the commoners to mix freely. The ground floors of the Procuratie buildings were filled with coffee houses, including the famous Café Florian, which opened in 1720. It was here that eager tourists sat to watch the world go by, hoping to catch a glimpse of a famous actress or a notorious gambler. Just off the piazza, we enter the Palazzo Ducale, or Doge's Palace. This pink and white Gothic fortress was the seat of the Venetian government. You are looking at the Molo, the waterfront promenade. This scene captures the most important day in the Venetian calendar, the marriage of the sea. You can see the Bucintoro, the Doge's magnificent golden barge, returning to the dock. It was a floating palace covered in gold leaf and powered by 168 oarsmen. Every Ascension Day, the Doge would row out to the Adriatic and toss a gold ring into the water, declaring, "We wed thee, O sea," in sign of true and lasting dominion. It was a ceremony of supreme confidence, even as the French and Austrian navies were beginning to encircle the Republic. Leaving the sunlight, we step inside the Ridotto, the state-owned gambling house. This was the dark, beating heart of 18th century Venice. Venice was the first government in the world to legalize gambling, provided you did it here, and provided you wore a mask. The atmosphere in this painting by Pietro Longhi is hushed and tense. The windows are shuttered to keep out the day. You see figures huddled around the faro tables, staking family fortunes on the turn of a card. The figure of the Barnabati, poor nobles who were forbidden from working but had no money, often frequented these halls, looking for a lucky break. The ridotto was the great leveler. Behind the mask, a duchess could be a courtesan, and a spy could be a saint. It was a place of dangerous freedom. We travel now to the entrance of the Grand Canal to see the church of Santa Maria della Salute. This massive Baroque dome was built a century earlier to thank the Virgin Mary for ending a plague, but by the 1700s it served as the majestic gateway to the city. The steps of the church rise directly from the water, a piece of architectural theater designed to impress visitors arriving by sea. In the foreground, you see the customs house, the Dogana, topped by a golden statue of Fortune turning in the wind. This was the checkpoint for every ship entering the city. In the 18th century, the waters here were crowded with sailing vessels from England and the Netherlands, a reminder that while Venice was partying, it was also slowly transforming from a military power into a tourist destination, a museum of itself. Night falls over the lagoon, and Venice transforms into a floating theater. This scene, painted by Francesco Guardi, shows the Festa del Redentore, the city's great summer celebration. Hundreds of boats crowd the water, lashed together and decorated with lanterns, turning the dark lagoon into a shimmering sea of light. Music drifts across the surface, violins, laughter, the clink of wine glasses. Fireworks explode overhead, their reflections fracturing across the restless water. This is Venice at its most defiant. The Republic may be losing its grip on global power, but here, pleasure is a political statement. Families picnic on boats, lovers steal moments in the shadows, and the city forgets, just for one night, about foreign empires closing in. Guardi's loose, vibrating brushstrokes make the entire scene feel unstable, as if it might dissolve at any moment. And that is the truth of 18th century Venice, a city dancing on water, celebrating magnificently, even as history quietly approaches from the dark. We now arrive at a place most visitors on the Grand Tour never truly understood, the Arsenale of Venice. This was not a playground, but the industrial heart that made Venetian pleasure possible. Massive brick gates guarded by stone lions rise from the water, leading into straight, disciplined canals lined with workshops, cranes, and half-built ships. By the 18th century, the Arsenale was still a wonder of the world, an early assembly line capable of producing warships at astonishing speed. Foreign ambassadors were brought here not to admire beauty, but to feel intimidated. While nobles gambled and masked themselves elsewhere, this silent machine reminded everyone that Venice's glittering pleasures were built on logistics, control, and mastery of the sea. Finally, we look out over the basin of San Marco from the island of San Giorgio Maggiore. This panoramic view captures the entire sweep of the city's waterfront. The water is a brilliant turquoise, reflecting the soft Venetian light that artists have tried to capture for centuries. By the end of the 1700s, this view was about to change forever. In 1797, Napoleon Bonaparte would march into the city, ending 1,100 years of independence. He would call the Piazza San Marco the finest drawing room in Europe, but would strip the city of its navy and its gold. But looking at this scene now, frozen in the amber of a Canaletto painting, the Republic is still alive, suspended in an eternal golden afternoon. It is a city of dreams, floating between the sea and the sky, inviting us to put on a mask and join the masquerade. Thanks for watching.